Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this Brainjuicer webinar on the subject, as you can see, of discovering the next big idea. Creativity counts. I should say good morning, by the way, to those of us who are joining us from the west coast of America as well. Thanks very much, everyone, for coming. I'm Will Goodhand. I'm Brainjuicer's official juicy evangelist, which really means doing things like this, sharing some hopefully inspiring thoughts about various different approaches, and today, of course, about the subject of innovation, why it's important to get it right, and why perhaps a number of the current approaches don't quite deliver what they might. We're very keen to make these things as interactive as possible. So I'll talk for a bit, and then there's an option, in fact, for you to enter your questions as you think of them as I go along. And then we have my colleague Chris Jones, who's actually head of Juice Generation here at Brainjuicer. He'll be putting your questions to me when I've finished the core of the webinar. So there'll be an element of the chat show as well as the lecture or seminar, webinar, such as it is. So I'll be talking about why it's so important to tap into truly creative people, those who have an innate ability to see things through different eyes, who can give us the fresh and lateral perspective that we need to get to fresh and potent big ideas. So, first of all, what is a big idea? In our view, it's an idea that disrupts the current paradigm, a game changer that creates fundamental shifts in a category, or bigger yet, creates a whole new category. Big ideas can be born of any or all of genuine inspiration, real consumer understanding, or indeed trend spotting. They can come from anywhere, but real skill is needed to spot and then to nurture those ideas. The big idea might be the thing that people say they need. It's a real pain having to always find somewhere to plug my electric drill in, for example. It might be the thing people didn't know they needed. Who actually said that they needed tablet computing? Obviously, I'm now one of those who looks jealously over the shoulder of those with an iPad and thinks, wow, actually that is quite cool. Or it might be the thing that you, the marketer, want to be the next big thing. Perhaps you've got the capability, you just need to grow the need. The example there in the middle of the chart, non-sticky, sticky stuff, post-it notes, a good example of that. And importantly, of course, and we can see the sat-nav there at the bottom, the big idea is often the thing that makes life easier. Complexity, all too often, is the antithesis of innovation. So ideally, the big idea is something completely different, and if it's not different, then it must, at the very least, be better. A little bit of a cliche for you here, thinking inside the box, but remembering, of course, that the reason why cliches are cliches is because they're A, true, and B, widely understood. Deloitte here pointing out that only 4 out of 10 blue chip companies are truly investing in kind of category changing innovation, rather than sort of product extensions. Thinking outside of the box, thinking outside of current constraints is indeed exactly what is required to successfully get to big ideas. And inevitably, the ability of any of us to think outside the box is limited by the fact that we live, think, and breathe inside the box. We can't unknow the things we know, and this does fundamentally lower our horizons. We're burdened with the curse of knowledge. How many times, quite understandably, have we heard any or all of the following? We tried that a few years ago, it didn't work. I'm not sure that'd fit in our brand portfolio. The capex on that would be too high. We've never done anything like that before, or particularly perhaps, ooh, that'd be a difficult sell to management. Our assertion, on the other hand, is that creativity begins with opening up avenues for exploration rather than prematurely closing them down, trying to avoid the incrementality, if you will, that says, we still need to seek the big idea, but whilst we're waiting, here's a nice packaging innovation. Here's quite a nice little cartoon about some of the next big things. Probably all of us be able to relate to some degree. How do we go about finding this next big idea? Well, there are a couple of standard approaches, the usual suspects, if you will. Of course, we've got the company brainstorm. Who doesn't love the opportunity to dive into the world of blue sky and greenfield thinking, and the chance to share with co-workers possible future directions of your company, and the chance to actually be a part of that? See that? We did that. In all genuineness, the company brainstorm is a great way to team build and get consensus. But is it really the most creative? We've all heard too many stories of disappointing brainstorms where the same ideas seem to come up year after year, a brainstorm with a room full of folks who may be brilliant at their jobs, but just not perhaps the most natural creatives. And that's when what we call at Brainjuicer the double bind of brainstorming can kick in. Because brainstorming is so good at team bonding and generating buy-in, the workshop can often end up generating terrific buy-in to some magnificently mediocre ideas. How incredibly frustrating for everybody concerned. Everybody's trying to do their best for the company, all this money, all this time's being spent, but is there some other way where maybe we could just tweak the process, change it, make it more creative? You know, the wall of death of post-it notes, who hasn't stared fuzzy-eyed at it, trying to make sense of the beautiful mind style vista? All it needs is a bit of wool tied around in a spider's web. You know, when you look at a wall like this, all too often, too many of the ideas will most likely be variations on the current situation. Why is that? Because everybody in the brainstorming huddle is cursed with knowledge. They just can't, you know, with the best will in the world, change the eyes through which they see the world. So you could perhaps call in the experts, the people whose very job it is to think outside the box. They get paid to live outside the box. But the problem is that in truth, they don't live outside the box. Or if they do, they live so close to it that it can obliterate the view and somewhat distort their field of vision. All too often it can lead to a law of diminishing returns. Yes, innovation is still happening, but it's lumbering forwards rather than leaping ahead. The experts' skills are well known, but their ability to fresh start think can be hampered by not being able to unknow what they already know. Again, the curse of knowledge raising its ugly head as the Zen master pictured there muses for us. So how can we remedy this subconscious blinkered thinking? Well, more and more people are beginning to look beyond the traditional sources for inspiration. Crowdsourcing is becoming increasingly popular. Makes perfect sense. Here you have a group of people, hopefully engaged and articulate people, who've signed up to work with and help improve brands. So they can give you an inside view on their own world and give you access to deeper, better understanding, helping you better get to grips with the needs they have, especially, of course,